Do you have a student who loves to read but hates to write? I find this all the time in my private practice where parents will tell me all the time, well, my child is a great reader. They love to read, but they hate to write. And what can I do about it? And so I'm going to give you something that I think will actually work. Now, when uh, when I say the word poetry, do your eyes glaze over and you go, ugh, I cannot read poetry? Well, I used to feel that way too until I started to teach poetry to reluctant writers. And what I have discovered is that most kids really like poetry and they really like to write poetry because you can really simplify writing by talking about poems. Okay. Now, I did not go to the library to prepare for this conversation, which I really should have because there's so many great poetry books at the library. But one of my favorite poets is Jack Prelusky. I usually say his last name incorrectly, so go ahead, criticize, it's fine. I like his poems because they're funny and they have a lot of rhyming, but there's, Dr. Seuss books that you could use for rhyming patterns. And you could go to Shel Silverstein and, just kind of those classic children's poetry authors. But what I like is because when you read it, usually they make kids laugh or they make them think about things. And so I don't know if I've got a favorite in this book because I've got several books, but for some reason I don't have them over here on my library. I put them upstairs, which was really silly because of course I wasn't really ready. Let's see here. This one is called Go with Eureka. Okay. I'm going to read this straight out of the book. Eureka. Eureka! At last I've succeeded. My experiment's finally done. I've made an incredible creature, the only one under the sun. There's never been anything like it. Part puppy, part kitten, part mouse. And now I must learn how to stop it from chasing itself through the house. Isn't that silly? And then you can talk all about the poem. Look how short that is. Most kids, especially like any students that are like third grade and up, poetry is like just works like a charm. They'll laugh. They'll be like, well, I could write something that short. Well, the really cool part about poetry is okay, now this poem actually had periods at the end of it, but most poems don't use any form of punctuation. You can turn a poem into a picture. You could do autobiographical poetry about themselves because what kid doesn't like to talk about themselves? And so you can really get over the hurdle of writing just by talking about poetry, reading poetry, and writing it. Now, one thing that I used to do, and I don't think that this company is in, they might still be doing this. I should look back. But I used to submit my students' poetry into creative communications publications. Okay. And so they would put an anthology together. This is one of my really older copies. It's from 2014. But I think I even had copies as late as like 2021 or 2022. And so, it just goes through and they write their poem and they submit it online. So they have to retype it online. But you can look at student poetry. Now, this is just pages and pages of poetry. I don't think any libraries probably carry these, but maybe a teacher has something like this. But the really cool part is you'd get the kids excited about becoming a published poet. And I would make a huge deal about this. So make sure that you look up, I'll say it correctly. I'll even put it in the description. It's okay. Their website is www.poeticpower.com. And honestly, I think they're still doing this because I'm quite certain that I got an email just this week about it. But they'll go through and they'll talk about the honor schools. Those are the schools that send stuff all the time and they always get published winners. They have the top 10 winners. They have merit poems. And then they index by author and by school. So I'm just going to go back here and look up my school and see if I can find one of my former students' work that would be published in here. And here's one on page 160 by Logan. And at the time, Logan was in 5th grade. Now, he just graduated college, so that tells you how old this book is. Way to go, Logan. And I'm looking for his publication here. There it is. Cotton the Rabbit. This is written by Logan Booth, okay? And I think Logan is going to be a collegiate coach for football. He's working on his master's right now, and he played college football, so That's really awesome. So this is what he has, and none of his sentences are capitalized. Okay, so he just adds these sentences. Have you met my rabbit Cotton? No, you haven't. You have No, you haven't. You haven't forgotten. He's fluffy and big, but he doesn't wear a wig. He scrapes and scratches, but he doesn't leave patches. He hops and plops, and he doesn't wear a mop. He has big ears, but he doesn't make tears. I love him to pieces, but he doesn't need leashes. And literally, that's his writing. Logan Booth, grade 5. And so he was super excited. Now, isn't that just a wonderful keepsake? And there's all kinds of them from kids all over the United States and maybe even Canada. I don't know. So you can really get kids excited about writing poetry. So what do you do if you don't know where to start? I think the very first thing that you need to do is go and get some poetry books. Then I want you to start with something super simple with an autobiographical poem like I am, I enjoy, I hate, I whatever. And you just go through and you can just keep coming up with things that your child likes or doesn't like. You can find forms out there for them, and then have them study something like a sin cane that has a very specific way of writing it with so many words per line, and certain things have to rhyme. Talk about end rhyme. Kids with reading problems and writing problems usually struggle a little bit with rhyming, so practice rhyming. Find books that have rhymes in them. Show them examples, and then give them permission to change that writing as many times as they like until they find the exact way they want it to look. And I think that will go a long way to getting your kids to overcome their writing just by using poetry. So one thing that I want you to know is I'm currently working on a writing course for grades first through third to get reluctant writers to actually write. And I will be posting that very soon on my website at tutoringwithcheryl.tutorberg.com. But I do have other resources that you can go and check out there as well. And so I hope that this will get your child excited about writing and overcoming that fear. All right, make it a great day and keep the learning going.